This is David Goldman, Asia Times Deputy Editor, speaking to you from New York City the evening of April 15th. Well, today was a great day for the recovery, or was it? According to the American Census Bureau, retail sales jumped by 9.8% in the month of March relative to February, which of course was a very low base, but still a really impressive number. Warmed the cockles of the hearts of the equity market. Perhaps investors thought the Federal Reserve will get its Goldilocks scenario with strong growth and acceptable inflation. But the story really doesn't add up when you look at the numbers carefully. About 3/4 of the increase in retail sales came from 4 categories of spending. That's motor vehicles, home materials, gas stations, and pharmacies. Now let's look at motor vehicles for a moment. If you look at the chart, the highly respected private Manheim Index of used car prices has risen roughly 35% in the past year. An impressive degree of inflation in used car prices. According to the Consumer Price Index published by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, inflation of used car prices is only 8%. Now, looking into the amount of care and detail that the Manheim Index puts into calculating car prices, I think Manheim is right, and the Federal Reserve and the Census Bureau and the Bureau of Labor Statistics are all well behind the curve. Motor vehicles, biggest category of improvement in retail sales between the fourth quarter of last year and the first quarter of 2021, a lot more inflation than meets the eye. Well, what else went up? Well, another huge category of increase was gas stations, or petrol for those of you listening to us in Asia. Well, not surprising, because in the United States, the cost of gasoline went from about $2.19 a gallon in the fourth quarter of last year to about $2.90 as the oil price went up. Then you have a big surge in building materials. Well, with home price inflation at nearly 12% a year, lots of homeowners are buying building materials and refurbishing their homes to dress them up for a market which is absolutely red hot. I don't know exactly what inflation in building materials really is, but it's motivated by inflation in housing prices. And the last big category, big contributor to retail sales, was pharmacies, health and personal care. Well, during a pandemic, you'd expect people to spend more on medicine. So altogether, we've got inflation, and COVID-19 driving retail sales to a much greater extent than the official numbers indicate. So I'm far from persuaded that a Goldilocks scenario is possible. I think that the big story for the next year or two is stagflation. And for equity investors, that means you should be afraid, very afraid. This is David Goldman speaking to you from New York on April 15th.